Rebel Radio Home and Garden Show this Saturday.
Sports Day is brought to you by Barton Community College. Explore your future and get started now. Visit gobarton.com.
Okay, Sports Day in 3, 2, 1.
4 seconds to go. Kicks it to Tomlin. It's a three. Not going to matter. That's it. Wichita State upsets Memphis and moves on to the quarterfinals, 71-65. 15-20 to go. Whoopsie allowed the Ward and a two-hand dunk. Beautiful design play out of the timeout. And Hassan pushed it through. 44-39.
They were the better team tonight. There's a reason why they're ranked 6th in the country, and we didn't play particularly well, but it was because of them.
They're ready. They believe that they can get this done. They're very confident. They know it's not going to be easy, and that's the main thing that we talked about, that we've got to make it. It's got to be a 40-minute game.
They've been playing really well, and obviously Kyle Fisher does a good job over there. They defend really well. They're one of the top defensive teams in the conference. They got a lot of talent too. I think their starting 5 are dealing transfers. They've got a freshman who came in a semester and is really starting to play really, really well. And then, of course, the 7-footer that comes off the bench.
With that largest, I didn't think it was that big a deal to have it at a conference school's home site, and to get 2 more games for our men on that floor, I think will be really, really beneficial as we move into the national tournament.
I'm kind of biased, I think, because hitting is my favorite aspect of the game. So I'm always going to say hitting, but our defense has held us in a lot of games.
Sitting back looking at the privilege it was to play with all these famous people. Everybody will ask me, what is it like to be on the same team with folk like George Brett, Willie Wilson, Brett Saberhagen, Dan Quisenberry, Dennis Ed.
And welcome to Sports Day on 1590 KBGB, 95.5 FM, the talk of the town. Woo, it's Friday, another week has been knocked down. Welcome to the show. Steve Webster, your host today, along with hosts Mike Corson and Mike Hesher. Why do you guys anyway. The Friday show today, we will have Connor Nichols, Sunflower Sports Solutions. We'll put to bed the high school basketball season, and also sports headlines coming up. All Western Athletic Conference is out, has been. We'll talk about the selections. Have a big question about that. So we'll get to it in just a moment, but dun, 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 we bring you this latest update from the Sports Day streaming desk. Mike Hesher.
Thought we weren't going to talk about it. We're making progress. And the stupidest thing was I changed the USB port the other day, yesterday, and all of a sudden the audio was there. I saw maybe that one USB port is bad. I don't know. But we're not using it anymore. So the audio is there. Now we're trying to find that lost camera that I have.
How do you lose a camera?
I don't know.
It's right over there.
We know where it's right at. I understand. It's not making it from over there to where I'm at.
If anyone has an idea on how you find a lost camera.
Okay, so you unplugged a USB. Was that the camera?
No. Very good. You can email mike.hesher@eagleradio.net.
Or you can just call in live now on the show and see if you can fix it right now.
Oh,
okay. Ready to get to the sounds? Here we go. Aaron Clark's on assignment, by the way. He went out to Northwest Kansas because he said his goal this year was to climb Mount Sunflower.
Should take about 20 minutes.
And 12 steps for him. Yeah, okay.
Of course, he'd have to find Mount Sunflower first.
Well, yeah, there's that. Getting off the... All right, let's get to the sounds. They called last night on ESPN2. The only Division I school that's still playing basketball on the men's side in the state is Wichita State. They beat Memphis 71-65 in the AAC tournament in Fort Worth. Harlan Beverly with 17 points. The Shockers, a 12th seed. They will play number 4 seed UAB in today's quarterfinals. How about the Shockers? I thought they'd be a lot better this year, but I didn't really know that much about their personnel. I like their coach.
Is Greg Marshall sitting up in the stands? All of a sudden, because they've had a pretty rough year, but everybody knows it's when you get hot, and evidently that's now for them.
Well, now they're taking on UAB. So they beat Memphis, who was completely out-coached in that game. It's getting harder with a great player, but as far as being a coach, not too fond of that.
Some of the great commercials of all time. Chris Rock is the little doll. Benny! Benny!
The call by John Walters from Learfield. Hassan Ward flushes down a second-half dunk. That gave the Cyclones a 5-point lead. Iowa State would pull away to beat K-State 76-57. Cyclones, well, K-State, who turned the ball over a season-low 10 times the night before against Texas, only 3 times in the second half of that game, well, they found their spots again. They found their camera, Hesh. They turned it over 20 times in the game. A lot of second-chance points. 31 free throws by Iowa State as they just took it to the glass. Head coach Jerome Tang says, well, no excuses. They were the better team. We didn't play very well, but the reason was Iowa State. So the Cats left to hope 3 wins over top 10 teams, enough to get them into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so a key moment there, about 13 minutes left. It's a 4-point game. K-State had just hit a 3, tries another corner 3, it gets blocked, and then it just went downhill really fast. So it was about 16 turnovers at that point, and I think about the next 3 possessions ended up in turnovers, never could get it back. But they were there for 30 minutes. They got 14 losses on the season in the toughest conference in the country. They had, 6 or 7 losses a few weeks ago. Got that out of their system. What's the committee looking at? They got wins over Baylor.
Probably 14 losses, probably. That'd probably be a good place to start, right?
Iowa State's obviously getting in. You've got to win over them. Texas, I think, will get in. Got a recent win over them. And I think if Jerome had been continued talking, he was talking about some of the other Big 12 teams.
It's political season right now. every coach, after the game's over with, they get bopped from the postseason tournament. It's like, here's my resume. This is why you should vote for us, which is really a futile effort if you're the standard fan.
Yeah,
I mean, it just makes your rage sacks grow, just like sitting around in your basement watching,
If you
posts.
think the committee's up late listening to KVGB, you're nuts.
Oh, they're locked in now, especially now since the stream's working. How's it going?
But yeah, I think 36 at-larges. You don't think K-State coming out of this very tough conference? I think officially they're one of the toughest 36 left, but that record is going to be tough to
14 losses, 14 losses. And if you're if you're on the bubble to get in about 68 teams, and I know there's some, there's some that are slotted in there for winning conference championships, but should you even be angry?
I think K-State has to go for the UABs of the world, all of the teams that are going to get in, because if any more lowly teams win their conference tournaments and take those at-larges, but I don't even know if they're close to the bubble.
I mean, KU, look at them. And of course, they don't have Hunter Dickinson. They don't have McCullough. They're out, but they were there for the previous 18 games that KU posted a record of 9-9. 9-9 in their last 18 for KU. They've lost 4 of their last 6.
And it's so weird because were they number 1 at one point?
They were I don't know if they got to number 1. I can't remember if it was. They wasn't very long. I mean, they beat some good teams, but I heard someone say this yesterday, that they're a veteran team. They have those guys have been around a while. So they come out, and they're better early in the year when some of these teams that get better throughout the year. Obviously, KU hasn't, so.
Yeah, that's tough. You want to be hot at the end of the year. They've absolutely slipped, and you're not only losing. I mean, Houston's tough. Oklahoma State shouldn't have been tough, and you lose by 20 and 30. But because you built that resume, you have to get in. It's just where? And then I think the expectations are still high.
I would not. Oh, people are still talking 4, 3, 4, 5. No. But again, we get back yesterday. Okay, well, if they get those 2 guys back, is it fair to a 9 that's going to have to play a number 8 seed KU?
It'll just be funny because, it's been so long. I don't even know in my life if I've seen KU under a 6.
Well, when they were a 6, they won a national championship. Danny and the Miracles.
88?
Yeah, that goes back. They were a 6 that year. That turned out pretty good. Okay, other games. So we have Big 12 semifinals tonight. You just want to listen to college basketball. Texas Tech against Houston at 6. Baylor against Iowa State at 8:30. Coverage from ESPN starts at 5:30. Texas Tech beating BYU yesterday, 81-67. Houston over TCU, 60-45. Baylor over Cincinnati, 68-56. Okay, showdown day in Hutchinson today. Here in about 20 minutes, the Barton Lady Cougars will tip off against 31-0, number 1 ranked Hutchinson at the Sports Arena. Head coach Alan Clark talking about his team's ready for the challenge. They went in the first time right there until probably about 4 minutes left to go in that game. The game here in Great Bend, they jumped out, I believe, 9-2, but then couldn't throw it in the ocean the next night. Ended up getting drilled. But I thought that night they had Hutch kind of on their heels a little bit where Hutch was tight. You know, it's like they're playing, we're number 1, we're undefeated. But Barton didn't have anything. You got to make baskets to continue that pressure. Finally, Hutch relaxed a little bit and pulled away. So, obviously, they're the underdog. They've got to win. Then they've got to win again tomorrow to get in the national tournament. But as they say, there's nothing to lose for the Lady Cougars today.
And this is like when Great Bend goes to play May South. We're hoping come out, get that early lead, make them finally think, man, we haven't been down all season. I was at the home game against Hutch. I think it was 16-5, or 16-3 maybe. Hutch could not score early on. They righted their ship, and then Barton went downhill. But if you can duplicate that game plan and keep it for 40 minutes instead, anything can happen.
Cole Reif, pregame coming up here in about 4 minutes over on B1043 The Point. Jeremy Combs says Butler will be at full strength. They bring a 7-footer off the bench. They have 5 Division I transfers, which there's like 300 and some D1 schools that some would finish middle of the pack in the Jayhawk Conference, probably. But still, they're D1 transfers.
Well, I was looking at K-State's schedule. What's Bellarmine?
Bellarmine. Bellarmine?
Bellarmine.
Yeah, Bellarmine.
Maybe one of those kids.
They get Butler today. Butler is ranked 19th in the country. They were ranked 19th in the final poll. They had three of their starters or key players got suspended by the league late in the season for fighting. So they didn't have them, and then they get another player that comes back, so now they're trying to put it all together again.
Were they fighting themselves?
I believe it's probably another team.
Because when they were here, Barton was up as double digits. They couldn't do anything, and they started yelling at each other. And then, of course, the track kids get their programs out. And, hey, Billy, why don't you just transfer?
Good student section stuff. So we'll see. Barton is in the national tournament. But I know Jeremy Combs and the team wants to cut down the nets. They were kind of shaky when they cut down the nets, winning the regular season conference title. They haven't done it. You don't know the routine. Some guys were taking big clumps of net off. You don't know the routine. So I think if they can win the Region 6, they'll be much better at that. And then they'll be really primed to cut down the nets at the national tournament.
Okay, so one of the greatest things I've ever seen in sport, a Barton soccer player on Halloween Day had a mask in his sock. So he assumed he was going to score a goal, which he did, which then he put it on, did a dance, and got a yellow card. As a basketball team, do you take the scissors with you and keep them in your sock, or is that a jinx?
I think there's plenty of time. This isn't Terrell Owens pulling a magic marker out of his jock strap and signing a football after he scores. That was Terrell Owens, wasn't it? Or am I?
Is it Cinco? Ocho Cinco?
Oh, it was, yeah. What was his regular name?
Chad Johnson.
Nice one. Yeah, it was Chad Johnson before they became Ocho Cinco de Mayo.
85.
Trevor Rolfs, they're playing this, and I know where they're playing it at Hutch. You go to Wichita, and the Wichita Sports Commission you'd be in charge of the tournament, and they'd be at like Coke Arena one year, and it's like, okay, Wichita Sports Commission, hey, we brought this tournament, people are going to be staying in motels. They did nothing for the teams. There was no discounts, as far as motels or meals or things like that. It was just, hey, you're coming here to town, spend your money. I mean, you go up in the media room. I'm not saying it's all about the media, The only food they had in there was this big salad bowl full of stinking bugles. Bugles.
But at least those are edible.
And that was it. And then they didn't even try. Then they had it at Friends University, and then, that's an old... I liked it at Hartman Arena, but again, it was kind of the same thing, Okay, yeah, you're here. Thanks for coming over here. We're not going to do anything for the teams or anything like that. Hook up with a local hotel or something. I don't know. It's what other conferences do.
You've got the Midwinter Jam in Hoisington. They usually have, or the Cardinal Jam, but they usually have pretty good hospitality. Class 2A or whatever's in Dodge City, whatever it is that year, the best. So I was out at 2A, in Manhattan. Forget your salad bowl full of bugles. It was a salad bowl full of lettuce with no dressing. I don't even think there were tongs. I think you're just supposed to grab a piece of lettuce.
No, I still remember that bowl of bugles. It was. So anyway, back to the fact that it's at Hutch. I can see why they're doing it. But back in the day when Hutch was just, they were the team to beat every year. They've got a very good team this year. They're the number 3 seed in this tournament behind Cali. Those two teams play tonight. But going in the sports arena then was, you played Hutch in the sports arena and it was full. This is a regular season game. It's just like anything else. Crowds aren't what they used to be. So, and they still had the Region 6 tournament there. It was completely unfair. So now they're going back because Hutch really doesn't have that home court advantage. I can see that. Barton ends up playing tomorrow, too. They'll go into the national tournament with 5 games under their belt. Trevor Rolfe says he would not have, been for this had we not had at-large berths. But, yeah, let's take it back to Hutch, and at least they'll run the tournament right and welcome you to the game.
It's interesting, too, like Colby built it, their new stadium, or their new arena, but do you expect Independence and Coffeyville to maybe drive out to Colby for an extra trip on the season?
Connor Nichols coming up, and we're kind of talking about what we want to talk about on the show today, and I said, well, let's talk about some of the venues, because he was out at Colby. Said everything was really good. For the first year they did it. Now, in that area, the complaint they're getting is motel pricing seems to have been shot up significantly for the week and the weekend of the state tournament.
Well, that's not
so. We've got the
good business, but
price gouging taking place.
I wonder if you ask, Connor, did you do any popcorn snow angels like the children in Colby have been doing?
Oh, well.
Seems like he might.
Okay. Well, and you say Salina doesn't get high marks? Well, I'll ask him about those coming up here. Okay, so let's see what else we got. One of our favorite guests we have on the show, Carson DeBose. She's just fun. When she comes in, she was on the show this week talking about Barton softball. They'll be in action tomorrow. They're playing Northwest Tech at home, and they're 10-10 overall, 7-3. What they hang their hat on? Well, it's been defense, but it's always offense. She likes offense. So the Lady Cougars, they should have a pretty good run tomorrow. Northwest Tech comes in with a record of 1-9 in league play and 1-19 overall. Barton baseball started their series with Colby off on a good note yesterday at home at Lawson Biggs Field. Picked up a couple of wins, 9-0 in the first game, 9-3 in the second. So the Cougars now 4-2. They'll head to Colby tomorrow to wrap up that 4-game Jayhawk Conference Series. Bo Jackson, talking about the players he played with in Kansas City. Bo Jackson will be inducted into the Kansas City Royals Hall of Fame on June 29th when the Royals take on the Cleveland Guardians.
How many years was he there? 2, 3?
See, this was stuff I forgot he was the number 1 pick in the 1986 NFL draft by the Bucks.
As I heard yesterday, it's not the Hall of Stats, it's the Hall of Fame. And
it is.
You could almost argue that the injury cemented his legacy because he never got the downhill. So all you ever saw of him were the highlights, throwing out Harold Reynolds, climbing the wall, hitting bombs, breaking bats.
Do you remember the play he got hurt on?
The Oakland?
Yeah.
Where he dragged the...
It was kind of like the hip tackle, wasn't it?
All I remember is going, that doesn't look that bad. But I mean, it was very awkward looking. I remember that.
Yeah,
but it didn't look very bad, but it was obviously career ending.
And I think I've heard theories that if he wasn't as strong, he just would have got tackled. But because he was that strong, he tried to break it, and that's what led to the injury.
And he wasn't like Michael Jordan. It was, he was a good baseball player.
And what would he have done if he focused on baseball only?
Well, obviously wouldn't hurt his hip.
Exactly. So he could have had a long career, but we'll never know.
Former Auburn Tiger. And our final call, Gary Hahn from Learfield. NC State upsets 11th overall ranked Duke in the ACC quarterfinals.
ESPN's weeping. They don't get the rematch.
Enough ACC basketball. We've got Big 12 basketball tonight here on KVGB. 5:30, Texas Tech and Houston. 8 o'clock, we'll bring you Baylor and Iowa State. Connor Nickel coming up on the show. We'll be back with more Sports Day for you. We're going to talk about All-Western Athletic Conference. See what Mike Corson thinks. Coming up after this.
If you need physical therapy, consider Advanced Therapy in Great Bend and Progressive Therapy in Larned and Hayes.
We had a lady that was having some severe back and hip pain, and we worked with her for about 6 to 7 weeks, and we were able to actually restore greater than 80% of her mobility, and we were able to keep her from actually needing that surgery for about 4 years.
You don't need to hurt. Physical therapy can help. Call Advanced or Progressive Therapy in Sports Medicine to explore your treatment options and get your life back.
Community bankers should actually know your community. Hi, I'm Sean Powelson, president of your local Equity Bank. As someone who lives here, I know many of you, and I know what's important to you. I've been in the industry a long time, and I've helped many navigate through financial challenges and lead them to financial opportunities. I believe that people bank with people, so I'd like to invite you to stop by one of our region's 5 locations and meet our friendly, helpful staff. Let us show you our commitment to serving you and our communities. Because at Equity Bank, we're right here beside you. Member FDIC.
Come visit with Equity Bank at the Eagle Radio Home and Garden Show this Saturday.
Want to graduate a little sooner? Take online courses with Barton Online and transfer seamlessly to your university of choice without all the hassle. We have 6-week and 8-week sessions starting in February and March. Save tons of time and money and get ahead by taking courses at Barton and transferring your credits. Now enrolling for both sessions. Get started at online.bartoncccc.edu.
It's Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM. Presented by Barton Community College and the Cougar Athletic Department.
Sports Day also brought to you by Next Tech Wireless. Experience wireless built by Kansans for Kansas. Eller Automotive Repair, a local mechanic that can help beyond Great Bend Appliance Furniture and Sleep Source. And also the Cougar Booster Club, continuing their efforts to make the Barton Athletic Department the best in the country. Okay, Connor Nickel coming up here in just a moment, and this has been out for a couple days. The Western Athletic Conference, all league teams, and these are things quite honestly, I really don't care about it that much. I mean, okay, the season's over. Here you go. Here are your awards. But and let's talk about the girls first, because this is Sadie Spray, Western Athletic Conference Girls Player of the Year. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Making the second team, Emily Hall and Kenzie Premer from Great Bend. The rest of that first team, Molly Martin, I think probably she was in consideration possibly for Player of the Year. Haley Contreras from Liberal, Shamari Lewis, who's Martin Lewis's daughter. If you ever never saw Martin Lewis play when he was in high school at Liberal High, he was dunking when he was a freshman. He was like Ian Premer. But he was doing the two-handed rim bender, flip up over the top of it when he was a freshman. Katie Linenberger, junior from Hayes, making that team. Okay, the boys' Player of the Year. Jack Weimer from Hayes High.
I wondered if we were setting something way to let into that.
Jack Weimer's a nice player.
He's fantastic, actually. But obviously, I think
he's a senior. Ian Premer's a sophomore.
And that maybe politics.
That's what I was going to say. Okay, but then you'd kind of be saying that Sadie Spray, they gave to Sadie Spray as a senior instead of Molly Martin, who's just a junior for Hayes High. And it is called Player of the Year. I think there's two different distinctions, don't you think? I mean, if it's most valuable player, or is it Player of the Year?
And that could be fair because most valuable usually goes to the best team in the league, which probably was Hayes by record on the girls' side. But I don't know that Molly Martin scored as much.
I look at it the other way. I think as the MVP, it goes to the guy that, okay, well, maybe that's the reason he got it. Player of the Year to me is the best player in the whole league. Player of the Year.
And that's why I like Sadie again, and I think top to bottom she probably was. Molly Martin's a fantastic player, but I don't know that she scored as much as Sadie did. Big-time defender, only a junior, she'll be back. But the boys' side, that's where you say Player of the Year was Ian Premer. Most valuable player might have been Jack Weimer because he does a whole lot for Hayes High.
And it's weird to say that I think Great Bend would certainly not been nearly as good without Ian Premer on the team, but they would have got along better than Hayes would without Weimer. Fair to say?
But I'm a point guard guy, guy, so he does so much.
He's a good player, but he hit the shot last year in the sub-state, obviously. But before that, he'd done nothing. Great Bend had been all over him. And then in the last game of the year here, I mean, did he have 2 baskets maybe in that game? You can...
So what, Hayes won?
Again, I'm not going to get too crazy about this, but I guess I am. Yeah, Jack Weimer's a good kid, good player.
Typically,
there's no way he's Player of the Year in the WAC this year.
WAC Coach of the Year is going to be the team that won, so Hayes won both sides.
Yeah.
So it's actually a shock that Sadie's the bigger shock just because the trend is always whoever wins it gets the big awards.
We'll talk to Connor Nickel about that. Okay. What else do we... Oh, the Chiefs have a new wide receiver.
Let me go back to Sadie and Katie Lindenberger real quick. They jumped the same height at state track last year, but Katie got it first, so she finished above Sadie. I think Great Bend will see Hayes many, many times throughout the year, so that'll be a fun one to watch. 2 of the best high jumpers in the state going head-to-head all the time.
Katie Lindenberger. Did you look that up, Hash, by any chance?
Jamie Hyman.
Jamie Hyman. Correct.
So she was the post. I think she played at Baileyville B&B.
Yes, she is from Baileyville, Bailey. And so that was when you were playing, right? Or not you playing, but you were up at Fort Hays because I was doing the games.
Watching Annette Wiles coach him up.
And she was in the same induction class this year for the Tigers as Sean Bear was. That's when I ran into her. And then her daughter was really good. Heck of an athlete.
Had no idea. I saw Jamie. She did something at one of the Hayes High probably when Great Bend was up there, and I think I said something to her and had no idea that.
Did she recognize you?
Of course. I was.
Or did she kind of just say creeper?
One of 100 in the stands back then.
Okay. What else? You got anything?
I will say yesterday we brought up the mile time for Clay Shively. Almost became the second high school kid. That was at basically the NCAA indoor finals in Boston. The NCAA champion within a day or two, maybe even the same day, ran a 4:01.77. So Clay Shively, the senior from Wichita, ran almost a second and a half faster than the NCAA champion. And I know it's 2 different races, and maybe they would have pushed it if he was in there, but...
What are the Olympic trials? Will he get... is that... You
got to run under 4 minutes to get into the Olympics.
I didn't know... What about our Great Bend runner that was going to try to qualify for the marathon?
He was competitive for 11 miles. That was in Orlando back in February. Had to pull out about 11 miles in.
Okay.
Eric Chavez.
Okay, very good. We had all this stuff.
Vasquez.
I hadn't heard how he did. Okay. More than half of Americans say they are against college athletes unionizing, though younger respondents were more supportive than older. That's according to a new poll from the Associated Press. NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. Survey found that 55% of adults believe NCAA athletes should not be permitted to form unions that would lead to collective bargaining with schools. Survey found breaks in support along 3 lines: political party identification, race and age. 6 in 10 adults under the age of 45 support allowing college athletes to form unions. Last week, Dartmouth's men's basketball players voted to join a union.
And I would say, the political divide, in my opinion, the unions help build the country and keep a few of the rights in there, but
those are guys that, have jobs. They're not playing a game.
So that was the argument, was we're making some money for somebody, we're practicing all these hours a week, it kind of feels like a job. Let's treat it like one instead of a gift.
Okay, take your money and then just say, okay, I'm just going to... Again, we've got to the point now where I completely say where it's going. Why do we have college athletics? No one's been able to answer that now. Maybe at the smaller level. Why? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that?
Flipping through the channels trying to find the K-State game last night.
What about those professors that have tenure now?
You can't fire.
You can't fire them. And they've got some really bright students that are doing great things. They're doing research at these universities that the universities get all this money for, and the people who are doing all the research are these college students that are doing it for free.
And probably paying to do it.
Yeah.
No, there's never a 100% solution. But yeah, I saw Gonzaga was on TV. I hadn't heard the name Gonzaga all season. They're not bad, but that used to be a team that you'd get those 4-year players. Adam Morrison sticks out. And I was like, I was thinking, we'll never see another Adam Morrison in college basketball.
Probably not. I'm not. Or someone that plays their entire college career at one school. Remember that used to be how rare it was in professional sports? He played his entire career. Cal Ripken Jr. was a Baltimore Oriole his entire career. Now you have guys, he has played, of course, how many seasons do they get now? I don't know. He's played all 7 of his years at one school.
Sometimes you see quotes online, and it doesn't mean that they're true, but one was attributed to Tubby Smith, former Kentucky coach, that the transfer portal is teaching kids to quit. Oh, you're uncomfortable here, or things didn't go exactly the way you wanted. Oh, go quit and try somewhere else. It didn't used to be that way.
How's Bill Self coach? I mean, he's coached hard. He used to yell at his players.
Red-faced a lot.
Well, yeah, maybe because he doesn't want to have another heart attack. I don't know. He looks fantastic now. But he's coaches different. What are you going to do? You going to yell at Hunter Dickinson for just mailing it in one game? No, he said, hey, I'm getting $1 million from you. I'll get 2 next year. I'll just go somewhere else. I don't want you yelling at me. Oh, boy. And it's coming to high schools.
So to be honest,
it's coming to high schools.
We'll go back to Coach Prime. He has it best. He says, somebody said, what do you tell these kids when you walk in their front door? He says, you make a name for yourself by playing for us. That's when you get paid. We do not pay you. So you come to play football. If you play well enough, maybe you get paid, but we're not talking about it.
Maybe the athletes pay the universities because that's where they got their notoriety.
This big old
because they got Duke on the front of their jerseys, or they, I don't know. Anyway, March Madness will continue. Next week, Selection Sunday. We'll have a special Selection Sunday on Sunday here on KVGB starting at 5. Connor Nickel coming up next on Sports Day.
Marmy Auto Group makes it happen. Central and Western Kansas. Check out our selection of new and pre-owned inventory. Marmy's friendly staff offers top quality service that you've gotten to know over the years. When your existing vehicle needs parts or service, our experienced team will get you back in the game this season. Marmy Chevrolet, GMC, Ford and Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep Ram, parts, service, and body shop. Visit Marmy Auto Group on 10th Street or marmys.net. Marmys, make it happen.
Are you unhappy with your current wireless provider? Well, what are you waiting for? Make the switch to Nextech Wireless. Not only will you get great service and the latest devices, but when you bring your number to us, you pay nothing down. That's right. The taxes and activation fee are on us. Certain restrictions apply. Nextech Wireless. Home on the range.
Hey everyone, this is Cole Wright, voice of the Barton Cougars. Attending sporting events for Barton Community College is great, but did you know you can support the athletic teams even further by getting involved with the Cougar Booster Club? The Boosters help with fundraising for equipment and facility upgrades to give Barton athletes every opportunity to keep succeeding at the regional and national levels. Join the Cougar Booster Club as an individual or business. Call 620-792-9377. Become a booster today. Go Cougars.
Venture Corporation is a homegrown company with almost 50 years of experience in asphalt, paving, and construction, and they need equipment operators, mechanics, and CDL drivers. Venture offers many benefits, including 401k and Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance. Call Leslie for all the details. Work for a family-owned and family-oriented company that is here today and will be here in the future. Venture Corporation, South Highway 281, Great Bend, is an equal opportunity employer.
When it comes to car maintenance, it's good to know a local guy that can get things done. The Eller family has been in the auto repair business in Great Bend forever. Greg Eller continues that long tradition of helping people. Eller Automotive Repair specializes in wheel alignments, oil changes, and general maintenance for all makes and models of cars and small trucks. Open 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 Fridays. Eller Automotive Repair at 915 Morton, right behind Great Bend Appliance, Furniture, and Sleep Source, 10th and Morton.
From the Mail Money Management Studios, 1590 KVGB, Great Bend, and 95.5 FM K238CK, Hoisington. It's Friday, and that means game day in the Golden Belt. To help us prime the pump, Sports Day brings you Sunflower Sports Solutions, Connor Nickel.
Best time of the week. We get to talk with Connor Nickel here on the program, Sunflower Sports Solutions. And I guess Friday's not game day anymore, but, since we pay this guy like $12,000 just to do a Connor Nickel intro, we'll probably just keep it the rest of the year. Is that okay with you?
Oh, perfect, sir. I enjoy it a lot.
Okay. Connor Nickel joining us right now. We're going to put the basketball season to bed here today, and then Connor's all over it on Sunflower Sports Solutions with track and field, baseball, softball, all the spring sports that we'll be talking about here throughout May when we go on our summer solstice. But let's get going with basketball right now, and I was just trying to think, okay, how are we going to cover all these classes? I just thought I'd kind of throw this out as we look at state champions, Connor, and you cover this as well as anyone in the state, your most surprising state champion. Maybe you're 1, 2, or 3, whatever you want to go with.
Certainly, yeah. I think the most surprising one, we'll start at 5A girls. For Topeka Seaman to break through, they've always been pretty good, but for them to break through this year, obviously Aquinas losing, but you had a number of other really good teams fall as well too. A great May South team that brought in a superb transfer this year. Obviously Carroll wasn't. Last year in 5A girls, you had the three, primarily well-known private schools was 1, 2, and 3, and Aquinas, Carroll, and St. James. And none of those teams were in the top 3 this year in 5A. And generally, at least one of those teams is, most years 2. And so that was just kind of a big thing. Seaman, the Star Bomber girl is a really exceptional player. Their coach is a Seaman alum. It was really cool for Seaman to break through and to enjoy that title. The other big thing, I don't know if it was a major shock that they won, but it was how they won. South Gray boys in Class 1A1, Bishop Seabury came in with just some really huge bodies. I mean, they had a 6'8" kid averaging almost a triple-double this year. I was at that game, and South Gray controlled it, played about as great of a basketball game in terms of fundamentals and basketball plays as you can ever see. They had 5 turnovers the entire game. Their ability to steal the ball, create turnovers, offensive rebound, just do everything. I mean, it was just a clinic. Coach Mark Applegate, the all-time winningest primarily boys coach ever for Kansas. He's went through a lot of personal health issues. His wife has passed away. he got a huge ovation that kind of gave me chills. For South Gray boys, their best player, Joey Dyke, he's one of 7 children. They come from a family with not very high means, if you will, and he's a role model in school. Just a really cool thing from South Gray. And then the final one was some of the undefeated teams losing. Yeah. To a boys, what Linden had done all year in the fall and in basketball, with of course Tanner Heckle coming in, they were going to be the first team in Kansas history to go undefeated in both the fall and basketball if they had pulled off both. I think that Mount Ridge pulled a slight upset, and then the 1A1 girls, it was a really good basketball game. Frankfurt's defense just superb all year, shuts down LRA in the second half. I really want to say this. LR missed some shots. But one thing I track a lot is contested shots. And LR in the second half, I think, was 3 of 26 shooting. Well, I'm marking on my notes, Frankfurt is guarding everything. I mean, the ability for Frankfurt to close out and to force LR into lower percentage shots was just classic defensive basketball. And then Frankfurt ran a lot of set plays really well. We would have liked to see the upset in 4A girls with Mieres losing. I thought that the Crusaders of Wellington played a fantastic basketball game and just came up a touch short.
Yeah, and I thought Wellington won that. The Associated Press reported on their scores that Wellington had pulled the upset. So, there I go for trust in AP. I should have gone to your site and got the latest information on that. Twin Valley League, you mentioned it, and it kind of, because, Frankfurt, Centralia, those schools like that we, that's in the same league, but they were one of the top leagues in state tournament play this year, weren't they?
Yeah, and they normally are. The girls' side, obviously Frankfurt first in 1A1, Centralia girls third in the same class. Valley Heights top 4 in 2A as the 8th seed. Hanover girls, of course, another just spectacular season, really dominating. You had the top 4 teams in that class that you pick. Doniphan West had a down year this year, but they won 1A1 last year. So you look at that class, and there have been years where Twin Valley League has won 2 girls classes. So just the incredible dominance that they have had. Boys side, you had a stretch there with Hanover and Centralia were winning a state championship and they were finishing second or third. Again, the girls' side I think is a little bit deeper, but the boys' side really good. What a league! And the Frankfurt coach told me, going back to the 101 girls' final, he goes, we knew that if we could keep it close in the second half, we were more used to playing in games like this than what LR was. And he flat out said this, and I didn't even ask. He goes, our league prepares us for atmospheres like this and games like this. They have huge crowds, and he goes, that really helped us a lot.
Okay, tournament site venues. You were out at Colby. It was the first time they've hosted with a new facility out there. Of course, you have a state tournament. It's always great for your community and everything. How did Colby present itself on getting that tournament back?
I thought that it was fantastic. I did post something on Twitter. I thought that Colby did really well. The size of venue is similar to what we see at Barton County, is great. I think some venues, particularly K-State, are too big. Colby, South Gray, for the South Gray game, it was basically a sellout. And sometimes you don't have private schools that travel well. Seabury actually brought a very good crowd. All the amenities around the game itself, PA, scoreboard, all those are really good. I thought the media stuff, which is important for us, was really well done. There were 2 things that people mentioned about Colby. I didn't think they were very big deals, but these were mentioned. One thing was there was some price gouging with hotels that was fairly excessive. I think that can be fixed, quite honestly. And number two, because of the signage and the banners that, Keisha puts up, there was not a whole lot of room to walk around the courts after games, particularly with South Gray. There was a lot of just congestion getting up and out to kind of where they were taking pictures. I think that stuff can certainly be adjusted. I didn't think it was a big deal. But as a venue itself, it was great, perfect size. I posted this on Twitter. My favorite ones, Barton, great. Colby, great. Dodge is really good. Obviously, when Fort Hays hosts, they were great. Hutch is fine. I think Emporia is good. Salina, I was not at 4A this year, but I heard that a lot of disastrous things happen there, as it normally does in Salina. And again, a lot of people said, my goodness, this is just not a good place to host anything.
It's been a long time since I've gone to a state tournament. In fact, it was Brad Ball from Atchison from the corner for all the marbles in 1986, okay? That gave him the state championship over the Pratt High Greenbacks, okay? I was calling that game. I don't have anything to compare it to. What have been the complaints about Salina at the, I still call it the Tony's Pizza Event Center, but what are some of those things?
Certainly, lack of food, lack of water, extremely long lines. I'll go back to state volleyball. This is a scene that and I can connect it to actually this year. St. James Volleyball is playing for the state championship game. An assistant coach, Brian Dorsey, who is the wife of the head coach. Brian Dorsey's nephew is Willie Dorsey, who is the leading scorer for Wellsville this year when Wellsville won 3A. So Brian Dorsey, big sports family, he is literally running around the floor of Tony Pizza's Event Center trying to get water and a granola bar for his girls. And there's nothing. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I posted this on Twitter. I actually have a photo of it. And there's nothing. I mean, it's before the state championship game, and I even asked the Tony's Pizza Event Center just to try to be helpful, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't really have that." And I'm like, "You don't have like food? What?" So there was just a lot of issues with all those things. I've heard the food this year was a similar occurrence. The building itself is just not good. I mean, it's an all-purpose wet basement type of facility, and I think for basketball it's a little bit better because they bring in some other stands. There's a lot of room on one side, so the sound doesn't really stay. And there's just a lot of building issues. Security is very interesting there. This is not TSA, but they treat it as such. and I've had some issues with that too. And so it's just been not a great environment. Chuck Cheney, who is there, he covers the Andover area schools, posted some things on Twitter with some more detail than what I just said. But by and large, it's just not a great venue.
But Keisha continues to go back there. Do you see that continuing?
Yeah, I will, because it's in Salina. I would say this too. Parking is not good there at all. Parking is not good. Even stuff like which doors are unlocked and locked that's oftentimes not clearly marked, so people are walking around. But yeah, Salina's in the middle of them and everything. So if you can go to Salina for something, then have at it.
Connor Nickel with us, Sunflower Sports Solutions. We're wrapping up the basketball season today. I do want to go to all Western Athletic Conference selections, and this is, unlike last year when I was following the Panthers every game, doing the play-by-play for them. I didn't get to see every game that was played. I know that Jack Weimer hit a big shot in the sub-state game last year to send Hayes on past Great Bend. But, man, it's just really hard for me. Is this like Jack Weimer? I know he's a nice player, But is it he gets Player of the Year because he's a senior and Ian Premer's probably going to win the next two?
Well, yeah, and I got to give credit to, a guy who we know well, Justin Armbruster. He had brought this up during the Great Bend Hayes High game on the radio of who would be POI. And he had noted that it was since Brady Worth, who of course went on to a spectacular career at Fort Hays, he is the last player to win the WAC POI and not come from the team that won it. Again, I mean, Jack's a great kid. He battled through a lot of, just some injury issues this year and other things. He's the team leader, the captain, a great point guard. Premer is obviously a premier special player. I do sometimes think you vote for, this happens in other sports too, you vote for the best player on the best team. Now on the girls' side, obviously that did not happen. And I was really pleased to see that Spray won POI. Obviously, Molly Martin was a deserving candidate as well too. But I just feel like Sadie Spray was just a fantastic choice. And for Coach Melvin to win WAC coach, I think said a lot about that too.
Yeah, and normally I don't get into these things like this because they call him MVP. And for the most valuable player, that usually goes to the player on the team that wins the league. But when you call it Player of the Year, and I could see it going the other way. I mean, with Sadie, she had a great career, and I could see Molly Martin. If they put Molly Martin ahead of Sadie I wouldn't have any problem with it. But because if you look, Ian Premer's probably he's not going to get it, but he probably gets some consideration this year. I mean, if you look by numbers for KBCA Player of the Year. It's just, if Jack Weimer wins, it's not any skin off my back, so I'm sure Ian Premer's going to win it the next 2 years. If he doesn't, then there's something really wrong. But, I don't usually get too fired up about these things. I'm not about this. I just thought it was a curious choice.
Yeah, it certainly was. I thought that, again, sometimes I think that being a senior does, I don't know necessarily about this one, but I know it has played into certain votings over the year. And a good example, honestly, is softball last year. Bree Warren from Garden City was a senior and won POI again. Phenomenal player, but Aubrey Thomas from Hayes High had better numbers and had beaten Garden City in their head-to-head matchup. But Thomas wasn't a senior. Now to switch into softball, the biggest preseason news is that Aubrey Thomas for Hayes High is hurt. She got hurt in a practice deal, kind of a fluky thing, and will miss a considerable amount of time. She is expected to play this season, but that changes the WAC race just tremendously. I mean, Aubrey Thomas is a legitimately special player. Has signed with Hutch JUCO for softball, two-way player. Hayes High was going to be your fairly strong favorite. I think Great Bend's going to be pretty good too. But without Thomas, Hayes High takes a massive hit, not only in the circle, but just with her bat and ability to play in the field too.
Connor, as we go into, let's just go baseball, softball right now because we're kind of running out of time here, but biggest stories that you're looking at heading into the bat and ball season here this spring for high school?
Yeah, I think some really broad things. I'm really curious to see how the WAC does in non-league games. Hayes High won the WAC last year and was significantly, with a very young team, but was significantly under 500 in non-league games. And it felt a little hollow, I think, to Hayes High because, their overall record, they were still below 500. I think what the Redskins could bring with Brooks Kappelman being back, and he is just an incredibly special player. You just don't see pitchers like that, especially maybe out west. So to watch him play, I think it's going to be really interesting. That's broad question number one. Broad question number two, the switch to 26 games for most teams. I know TMP is playing 26 games in softball. I think that's going to be a positive for most teams. I think it's going to be able to balance out your kind of your scheduling some and how that will go. And then your third thing is Hoisington softball. You know, we talked about Hoisington for a long time now. I'm really hoping we're a ways away from obviously sub-states pairings, but I'm really hoping that they can avoid Haven, because that will help out both Haven and Hoisington. Haven is completely loaded. I mean, literally loaded. 3A is going to be really good again. Santa Fe Trail has got the KU commit back. Silver Lake has got a Washburn commit back in the circle, and then a junior who may be better. And so those two teams are going to be really good. But I'm really hoping that Haven and Hoisington can make a great run, not have to play in the same postseason together, and hopefully both of those teams can qualify for state.
All right, here we go. It's time to put the shorts on. Go outside. Make sure you're not outside too long. You get sunburned and stuff like that. So spring is almost here. Connor Nickel, thanks so much. What's going on at Sunflower Sports Solutions right now?
Certainly, yeah. We had a long feature on South Gray and Joey Dyke, you know, their star player we talked about earlier on, and kind of his upbringing and just the joy he brings to life, even though he's been through a lot of, you know, personal obstacles in life. And Coach Applegate and some of the things he's gone through, that feature has been really well received. We had a number of stories that went up, State Basketball League. We've got a number of postseason stories that will be going up. But, you know, check out, I think that South Gray story, a lot of people have said this is a very touching story about a kid that I didn't know a whole lot about outside of just the amount of points he's been averaging. So definitely check out that story, and there's going to be plenty more coming up.
Isn't that what it's all about sometimes? I mean, we always look at the scores and who wins, who loses, who scores the most points, and who doesn't. But isn't it the stories behind it that really get your juices flowing?
Exactly right, 100%. And so we've got a few more kind of, and I'm going to call this series kind of like, hey, things that we may have missed, type of things. And there's going to be a story on a girl from Frankfort, who obviously Frankfort's not necessarily in this area, but some of the things she went through this year. And she was the main girl who guarded the ET girl in the 101 final, and had a tremendous game and really keyed that defense that allowed Frankfort to win in the second half.
Connor, love your work. We'll talk to you again next week.
Hey, certainly, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Okay, Connor Nickel joining us here on Sports Day. Our show brought to you in part by American Plains Co-op Bulk Fuel Department. They're your certified Cenex lubricant dealer in Great Bend. By the Marmy Auto Group on 10th Street in Great Bend. And by Venture Corporation, reminding you to help a neighbor shop local.
Community banking should actually
More Sports Day coming up.
Hi, I'm Sean Powelson, president of Your Local Equity Bank. As someone who lives here, I know many of you, and I know what's important to you. I've been in the industry a long time, and I've helped many navigate through financial challenges and lead them to financial opportunities. I believe that people bank with people, so I'd like to invite you to stop by one of our region's 5 locations and meet our friendly, helpful staff. Let us show you our commitment to serving you and our communities. Because at Equity Bank, we're right here beside you. Member FDIC.
Come visit with Equity Bank at the Eagle Radio Home and Garden Show this Saturday.
All right, welcome back. Sports Day right now. Barton Lady Cougars leading Hutchinson at the end of the first quarter, 15-10. Then Hutchinson goes on an 8-0 run to take an 18-15 lead. And right now, Mike Hesher,
21-17 Hutch.
Okay, Lady Cougars right with the number 1 ranked team in the country. You can catch that game over on B104.3 The Point. Cole Rife going on right now. And then that will be followed by the number 1 ranked Barton men going for win number 31 on the season. They'll be taking on the Butler Grizzlies. Cole will have them both for you. And don't forget tonight, Big 12 semifinal basketball right here on KVGB. See you at the Home and Garden Show tomorrow at the Great Bend Event Center. That's our show for this week. Have a great weekend.